Hey guys, welcome back to another Premiere Pro CC tutorial. I'm your host, Gilly Gill. Let's get started talking about the timeline. In the last video, we talked about how to create a sequence, but a sequence lives in the timeline. The timeline is where we're gonna put all our clips. It's where we're gonna make all of our fine-tuning edits. We're gonna adjust all our audio. The timeline's kind of important. So let's not waste any time and jump right in. Okay, in the last video I showed you how to create a sequence, and we still have these video clips here, and we've created our C0001 sequence, which, you know what? We should rename that to something clever now. Let's call it timeline. By the way, to rename a clip or anything like that, just select it. It becomes highlighted, change the name, hit enter. Okay, so in the source monitor, we've chosen this clip to have its in point and its out point, which if you ever want to jump to these, you can just use these buttons right here. This is go to in point, and this one on the other side is go to out point. And now that you have your in and out point selected, we have to bring this clip into the timeline, which is pretty simple. So since we already have our sequence created called timeline, we can just click and drag this clip and drop it right into the timeline. Or if you really get into keyboard shortcuts, which I strongly urge you to do, all you have to do with the source panel selected is press period on your keyboard. And so what that does is when you have a clip selected in and out points and you press period, that's going to insert that selection after the playhead. So watch that happen again. If we bring the playhead to the beginning, we select the source monitor, hit period, it puts that clip right where the playhead was. And just for a better understanding, I'll put the playhead somewhere around here and hit period again. And what that did was put the clip exactly where the playhead was. So when you get into the habit of trimming clips and you're going through a list of footage and you find your in and your out points, you don't have to waste time by clicking and dragging into the timeline. You can just hit the space bar to play back your footage, press I when you find the end point, and O when you see the out point, and then period to keep building your timeline, like this. So if I were editing a normal vlog, I would just select the next clip, I would press my endpoint, let it play back for a second, stop it, oh, period. Oh no, do you see what happened? The playhead was in the middle of our clip that was already in the timeline. And that's something you have to look out for. Pay very close attention to where your playhead is so that you don't overwrite clips. When you get to the point of reviewing it, you'll find some really weird transitions from one clip to the next and it doesn't make sense. So chances are you probably overwrote the clip that was in the timeline before. So just very simple, Command or Control Z, reposition the playhead, which you can use the down and up arrow to go to the beginning or the end of the current clip, and then press period. Okay, so now that we have a piece of footage in the timeline, I want to show you how we can manipulate the timeline to tweak certain things about these clips. So if you take a look at these little lines just to the left of the active timeline area, which is where the playhead lives, if you hover over them, it gives you this double arrow. Click and drag that up to show you more of the clip. You can see more of the video side, you can see more of the audio side of the clip. And by the way, these are slow motion clips, and that's why we don't see any audio waveforms on the audio portion of that clip. And showing you this is important because you can see this little line that goes right across the middle of the audio track. And then if you click and drag it, you can see that we're bringing up and down the decibel level of that audio clip. And speaking of the left side of the timeline, there's kind of a lot of things going on over here. I'll let you know what I use most frequently. On the audio tracks, you can see this little padlock. If you click that padlock, it then locks that audio track, so you can't select it and move it. You can't change the decibel level. You can't do anything. That track is locked down. Which can be useful if you're working on, let's say, a music sequence. So you have a music track on the bottom and you're trying to trim to that sequence. Locking the audio will help you not lose your place, like if you're timing certain things to the beat. So that audio track will always stay in that place and you can move around all the other clips above it to keep your timing. Now that we have a couple clips in the timeline, we can still edit and manipulate those clips just like you can in the source monitor when you chose your in and out points. So let's say we don't like the in and out points of our second clip. All we have to do is find the point where we want, and you'll just click on the very right edge and drag it towards the playhead. And you'll notice that it snaps to the playhead. Snapping is on by default, and you can see that right here in this timeline. You can use the keyboard shortcut S to enable or disable snap, but by default it's enabled, and honestly it's pretty useful. And of course we can move these clips around, we can rearrange them. Let's say we wanted that clip first, we can bring that to the front and then butt up this next one against it thanks to snap. And now our clip starts with the two boys running and then goes to the snow angel. A couple of really important keyboard shortcuts that I want you to know for the timeline, and I use them so much, is plus and minus. Let's say you want to really look into this clip. All you have to do is keep pressing plus, and essentially that's zooming in to the clip so that you can see more of it. And let's say we want to zoom back out, just keep hitting minus, and then you can see more of your timeline. That's especially useful if you want to really fine-tune the very end or beginning of your clip, or if you want to cut a clip in a specific place. Zooming into it is the best way to really get you that precise spot. And as far as the timeline goes, that's the most basic understanding of how the timeline works. You brought some clips in there, we can rearrange them, we can change the in and out points, and start building a really, really great video. We'll move on to some more advanced techniques in the timeline later, but I want you guys to start with a really strong foundation of how the timeline works before we get into all that crazy stuff. Like the video, subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you on the next one.